And good morning. Welcome to the Rutherford Sports Network podcast. I'm John Thomas Hill. And I wanted to do this podcast today because it's come to my attention that the Charlotte FC franchise in the MLS, which debuts next year, has some of the highest season ticket prices in all of MLS, and they've not played a match yet. On top of that, they have been selling permanent seat licenses, which was the original thing that funded Carolina Stadium, which later became Ericsson Stadium, which later became Bank of America Stadium, for the Carolina Panthers. By the way, Charlotte FC is going to be playing in Bank of America Stadium. It's just that the top section will be roofed off. Okay. I get the fact that in order to pay for these exorbitant salaries in professional sports, ticket prices are going to be expensive. I get that. I've gotten it for a very long time. The problem becomes that you're pricing out even fairly well-off middle-class families. Used to be, back in the day, the key element of any fan base was those season ticket holders. Working class season ticket holders who would come to every single game, no matter what, whether it's NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, what have you. And no matter how the team did or anything like that, they'd always go to the game. Well, then free agency comes along, which of course was going to happen. And the prices of the salaries went up big time. And ticket prices, of course, followed. Now, Major League Baseball is still fairly affordable if you get it on a day like Monday or Tuesday or something like that, where I think the Atlanta Braves still run the cheapest tickets on Mondays and Tuesdays, if I'm not mistaken. I've not really looked at it the last couple of years, obviously because of the pandemic. But considering we're coming back off the pandemic, and once they start bringing in fans again, and I know to begin with, obviously they're going to be back at regular price, but there has to be a way to make tickets, to keep tickets affordable, even if it's in the top upper deck and whatnot, to where fans can still, who aren't exactly rolling in dough like myself, can go and actually watch a game. I've never been to an NFL game. I'd love to go to a Panthers game. I can't fork out all the money that's involved in just going to a game with a buddy of mine. Now, it doesn't start with just the tickets. You've got parking as well. And, I don't know how these people afford it. And to me, we have to look at this from the long-range perspective. Salaries in professional sports have been continuously going up. You've got NBA players making $40 million. Major League Baseball players making $40 million. I'm old enough to remember when $1 million seemed exorbitant. The very top elite made $1 million. Now you got bench players making $1 million. And I'm talking about guys who barely get off the bench, making $1 million a season. That money has to come from somewhere. And it's not just the tickets that are expensive. You've got to look at the food, which has always been expensive. Let's face it, if you've been to a movie theater sometime in your life, you know that the snack counter is expensive as hell. And there's a reason why they try and keep you from bringing your own stuff in there. It ain't to keep it clean, folks. It's to make some money, which my mom, God rest her soul, she passed away 14 years ago today. She had great advice. Go eat before the movie or before the ball game, and then go eat after the movie or the ball game. Smart woman, that. But most people don't. They want to go for the experience. They want to go to a ball game and get a beer, get a hot dog, get nachos or whatever. And of course, for the discerning fan, they're not just content with that. They want more than that. And so you have stadiums who are going all out with brand new foods and whatnot. It's sort of like the kind of the double-edged sword I talked about in the podcast before, sports in the post-pandemic era, which is building an experience around the event. And I can understand that. People don't want to just go watch a ball game anymore. They want to be entertained. They want to see. They're going to be there for a very long time. They want to see stuff before the game. They want to see stuff after the game. They want to do all this. And that's fine. But it's going to cost you. And it just seems like to me that professional sports are alienating the very fans they need to continue to grow by keeping prices going up the way they are. And even minor league sports, you know, the very thing that's suffered the most, you know, high school and college have been able to get through primarily because they do get some funding from the institutions that they represent. But minor league sports don't have that luxury. There's a very good chance that after this pandemic is over with, you're going to see a lot of minor league teams fold up or move. And that's why I hope that fans can come out to baseball games this summer, because minor league baseball really needs the help. Now, obviously, I don't want that to come at the expense of sound medical advice of we should still social distance and all that. But, folks, if you've got a single A team in your town, or maybe even a double A team, they're hurting. And if you can go support them when it's wise for fans to go out to these games, and it's looking a little promising. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper basically, I think it was, you can have 30% attendance at games, a capacity. There's no cap on how many people can be in the stadium, but as long as it's 30% capacity. So that is some good news. Now, whether or not, you know, I'm still very wary. I'm not going to go to any games anytime soon. But it's almost March. Minor league season starts in May this year. There's 2 months, and I'm crossing my fingers that things improve vastly to where by May, minor league baseball can start. Now, high school football in North Carolina starts this week. And with those new loosening of restrictions, there's going to be a limited number of tickets available for my alma mater, East Rutherford, playing RS Central at home tonight. I'm not going to the game because even if I could, I'd probably stay away so that other folks who are parents and all that would would want to go. That just sounds practical to me. My feeling is that as I talked about this in the post-pandemic podcast earlier, say that 3 times fast, business is going to be slow for any sports endeavor for the next couple of years. The economy is starting to recover. We've been through hell. People are going to be nervous about getting out in crowds. Some will not. Most will. So it's going to take a couple of years to get back to where we were. Perhaps longer, maybe not as long, who knows. We've never been through this before. I think it's important, though, that professional sports show that they understand and try and rein in ticket prices to a degree. At least for a couple of years. At least make the effort to cater to the fans that aren't always going to be there. But we all know that's not going to happen because it's become such a huge money racket. The athletes are getting paid ridiculous amounts of money. The owners are making ridiculous amounts of money. The leagues are making ridiculous amounts of money. The networks are making ridiculous amounts of money off this. Merchandisers are making ridiculous amounts of money off of this stuff. Have you looked at NFLshop.com or whatever the merchandise site? You can buy anything that's got your favorite team's name on it or a logo on it. I mean, I'm surprised they don't make condoms with the thing on it, It's crazy. But the funny thing is, there's got to be a ceiling eventually to all of this. Because most of the fan bases aren't rich. They're working class folks. They're struggling to make a living right now. Our economy is still struggling, as you would expect in a pandemic like this. And the truth of the matter is, it's going to continue to struggle for quite a while. There's hope on the horizon. The pandemic looks like we have crested the hill, hopefully. Cross your fingers that maybe we won't get another wave, which is what I worry about, is the people getting complacent through this and another wave come along in the summertime or dare I say it next fall, and all of this. So to me, sports right now really needs to be there for us. It was there during the wars. It was there during our very difficult times in this country's history. 9/11, sports were there. So I hope that there is some movement at least to try and at least get some affordable tickets. I'm not holding my breath, but there is that. But for Charlotte FC to charge such outrageous season ticket, you've not even played a match yet, and the Carolinas do have some history in the sport of soccer. The old Carolina Lightning back in the day, back in the 80s, early 80s. I remember that. Never did go to a game, but I remember that they did sell out the old Memorial Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they recovered, and there was a big deal for then a small market. Now you've got MLS, which has become a fairly big deal. Still a niche sport. Let's admit it, MLS is a niche sport. But there's a lot of money to be made in soccer these days. And you're trying to get into a market that's not traditionally known as a soccer market. Even with that, there is some history there, but it's not as big as, say, New York or the Northeast, the Midwest, or the West Coast. Or even Texas, parts of Texas and Florida. The fact is that it sends a bad sign that this is just a vanity project on David Tepper. Yeah, he's got an MLS project, but MLS club, but he's just there to make money. And if the stands are half full, he doesn't care. They're not going to build a soccer-specific stadium in Charlotte. Basically, what they're going to do is Tepper wants to build a new stadium for the Panthers, and Bank of America Stadium will become the home of Charlotte FC. And I don't know what's going to happen. Will they downsize? Will they take off the upper deck? Will they renovate Bank of America Stadium when the Panthers move out? And that's not been finalized, but it's basically David Tepper's bought a plot of land. He wants to build a new stadium. You know he's going to go after some public financing for it. I don't know why, because as you've all probably heard from this podcast before, I'm not a very big fan of public financing of stadiums. If it's a high school stadium, a fairly affordable high school stadium, we're not talking about the ones in Texas, I'm fine with it. If it's a minor league club, or college-based, like the one in Forest City, I'm fine with it. But if it's for a major league sports club that the owners are already billionaires to begin with, the leagues are making billions of dollars, you think you can build your own stadium? And I'm fine with public funding being used for public transit to these stadiums and whatnot. And I'm all for that. You know, if you want to build new subways to get to these new stadiums and all that, fine. And new bus lines, light rail, what have you. The problem becomes that how much money has been spent on these stadiums? How much of that money could have been better spent on schools, hospitals, anything else, recreation centers for average folks like you and me. I mean, by the way, I'm chewing some gum to help my digestion. I just ate. I always make that mistake of eating before podcast. Pro sports need to really rein in the prices. Because they've not hit a ceiling yet. You've got athletes making $40 million a year. The top elite athletes making $40 million a year playing sports. And I thought $25 million just a few scant years ago was outrageous. I mean, we're very close to the first $50 million a year player. And I understand. Even the top athletes only have like a 10 to 15 year window to make money playing a sport before their bodies give out and they have to eventually retire. LeBron James has extended that way beyond. He's almost 40 now, and he's still playing at an elite level. Not as good as he used to, but he's playing at elite level. How long will that last? Who knows? Maybe another year or two. But look how much money he's made. He's made more money playing basketball than Jordan ever did. That Magic Johnson and Larry Bird ever did combined. That Dr. J ever dreamt of making back when he played. It's shocking just how much money these players make. And yet, and I don't have a problem with that. It's a fair market. If the owners are willing to pay it, go get what you got to get. The problem becomes when's it too much? How much is it? Are the only people that are going to be afford to go to ball game, even in the upper decks, are going to be people who make six figures a year, high six figures a year, corporate people having these suites and all that. It's become a problem that I think that really has to be solved. And I don't know how to solve it. You can't. If you try to impose restrictions, the teams will fight back and all that, and and there's some owner somewhere going, I want a bigger stadium than Jerry Jones has in Dallas. And somewhere the next 10, 15, 20 years, Jerry Jones's kids are going to go, well, the Jerry Dome's too small and too obsolete. We need to build a new stadium. There are stadiums who've been torn down that didn't even last 20 years or 25 or 30 years. Charlotte's Bank of America Stadium is 26 years old, I think. Something like that. Quarter of a century old. I'm all for, if you want to do a major renovation where the Panthers may have to play a year or two outside of the stadium, say in Columbia or Raleigh or Clemson, what have you, that's fine. Don't build the new stadium for the sake of building. Renovation, I'm fine with. Look at what Chicago did with Soldier Field. I mean, they practically gutted it and built a new stadium inside the old one, but they stayed in the same spot. So it's one of those things. It's like it brings out the cynicism in me. It's made me less of a sports fan as I grow older. It's like, is this all it's all about? Money? So yeah, there's that. Anyhow, I need to come on here to vent about that because I saw that and it had been really bugging me. That's it for now. Take it easy. Have a great day.